challenge you to come up here and share with us the challenges and the opportunities. And the question I would ask as you kick off this presentation is, how can we best ensure that we are leveraging technology to ensure trade across Africa, free trade? Let's give Ashish a warm welcome as he kicks this off.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, friends. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. I apologize, I do need to fly back to Tokyo, so as a result, this arrangement. This is truly history in the making, with the African Continental Free Trade Area agreements being signed tomorrow. I think this is a huge milestone. As African entrepreneurs, we're in a bit of a catch-22, generally speaking. And what I mean by that is, on one hand, people are generalizing our continent in a negative perspective. So we're always trying to explain to them that, listen, we're a continent. We're made up of 54 countries. Do not generalize us. Please understand, we are a huge continent. On the other hand, when we're talking to global investors and institutional investors, we're always selling the African story. We're telling them that we're going to have a population as a continent larger than India and China by 2025. We're telling them that our GDP growth and our GDP size is larger than India's today. But then we sink back into the reality, which is we're so many different countries still, and we're blocked trying to do business cross-border. And this is why this is so significant for us, that by really signing this agreement, this is truly going to become a reality. And as the private sector, as entrepreneurs, as businesses, this is a huge opportunity for us, a huge opportunity. And when we think about what this kind of brings in as a continent, it's going to enable us to, on the tech side particularly, bring this so-called brain drain that happens right now, where our experts, our diaspora are going back into the international markets because our economies are not large enough. But the minute this opens up, we truly become a very, very large market in order to play in. And I think the important angle is when we think about skills. The skills are there. Our youth are extremely hungry, extremely driven, very passionate. And we had this experience when setting up call centers across the continent. There were no call center skills in a lot of the countries that we went to. But by just putting people through simple 60-day, 90-day training, we had professional call center employees, and today we have over 7,000 call center employees across Africa. So this shows you that the talent is there if tapped into with the right training mechanisms. I think what's important in terms of policies need to follow this. So as private sector, what is very, very important to see from the government side, once obviously this is all moved forward, is that we need to boost financial inclusion in the true sense. And this is where the public sector and private sector will work very closely together. Financial inclusion in the true sense does need to be boosted. And this is going to happen only through mobile payments and mobile wallets. Not necessarily through the traditional method that we've seen, which is through banks and telcos, but also independent mobile wallets that come into the market. I think this is going to be absolutely critical, especially when it comes to our entrepreneurs working cross-border. There'll be free funds flowing, and importantly, this makes the informal sector become a part of the formal sector. So there's a direct benefit in this. I think the second thing is smartphone penetration encouragement on the continent needs to happen as well, but high-quality smartphones, which is where our governments need to put in stronger constraints around quality control that comes in. Because the minute, when you visualize, I mean, McKinsey did a report showcasing that in the next few years, our continent is going to have 700 to 800 million smartphones. Can you imagine 800 million smartphones? Our people's lives are going to change in the true sense, from not only commerce and financial services, but from education, healthcare, and so many different other elements. And lastly, IP laws, which is an absolutely critical area. We talk about innovation a lot, but a lot of our countries still don't have the right IP protection in place. This is extremely exciting when we think about the fact that as a continent, we can lead the way with clean energy, artificial intelligence, electric vehicles. There's so many different things that we can do bigger, better, and bolder than the rest of the world. The private sector is ready. We're always ready for larger opportunities, and this is one that we've been waiting for. The Mara Group and the Mara Corporation is active across 25 African countries. So to actually have this open really changes the ballgame for us and many others. The private sector is absolutely ready for business. I think the important thing is, after signing tomorrow, and hopefully using President Kagame's words, we need the other horses to come and drink the water as well. But it's important that this is ratified, and we want to celebrate those countries that do ratify it the earliest, and most importantly, name and shame the ones that don't. But the bottom line is, I think we are only answerable to ourselves, so the ball really is in our court now. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for that, Ashish. I come now to the panel. As we go into this discussion, I want us just to realize at a personal level, in your workplaces, in your communities, just how our lives are being transformed by technology. The way we live in our homes, the way we communicate with our families, the way we consume news, the way we purchase. Everything is changing, and it's changing fast. And if we don't accept and grasp this, this is going to be a problem. There are two things I want us to look at in this panel session. The first is, how do we leapfrog the challenges that we have faced, maybe infrastructure gaps and so on, using technology? And also, how do we ensure that we are building, I think Ashish tapped into it, a generation of innovative workers who are able to really reframe the way Africa operates and unleash opportunities through innovation and technology across this continental free trade area. So let me start with you, Your Excellency. Just looking at the role of government, creating an enabling environment, working, dialoguing with the different partners, creating partnerships. How do you see the role that you have? And what would you like to see stakeholders do alongside you, private sector, civil society? Over to you, please.
Well, I think that I will speak in French. That will be easier, of course, for me, and to go faster. Je voudrais vraiment vous remercier. Je crois que la question que vous posez est une question essentielle. Il faut d'abord dire que, en réalité, l'innovation et la technologie ont toujours existé. Depuis que l'homme est sur Terre, il a dû donc innover pour s'adapter au monde environnemental qui change. La technologie, c'est quoi? Ce sont les moyens que l'homme utilise pour s'adapter à cet environnement. Mais c'est le type d'innovation, le type de technologie qui change. Quand le singe, chimpanzé, il utilise pour la première fois une baguette pour mettre dans la termitière, pour manger les termites qui montent le long du bâton qu'il met dans la termitière, c'est une innovation. La tige qu'il utilise, c'est de la technologie. Si le singe l'a fait, à plus forte raison l'homme. Donc, ce que je voulais dire, c'est qu'effectivement, dans le domaine du commerce intra-africain, puisque le sujet est technologie, innovation et commerce intra-africain, l'innovation est essentielle. Il faut faire en sorte que par des moyens nouveaux, nous adaptons donc au monde qui varie. Ces moyens nouveaux, vous en avez parlé, c'est effectivement le numérique, qui est l'élément fondamental. C'est, disons, que les autours de l'information, qui permettent donc de communiquer. C'est aussi les moyens financiers nouveaux, qu'on parlait donc le conférencier tout à l'heure, qui permettent donc de s'adapter. Mais pour ça, effectivement, nous sommes d'accord avec vous que ce n'est pas seulement l'État. C'est un partenariat État, secteur privé, qui permet donc d'aller de l'avant. Je vais vous dire, puisque ce matin, nous avons entendu des chiffres. On a dit que les échanges intra-africains sont de l'ordre de 17%, les échanges. Moi, je peux vous dire qu'en Côte d'Ivoire, nous sommes à 34%. la Côte d'Ivoire fait 34% de ses échanges commerciaux avec l'Afrique. L'objectif, demandé par le président Alassane Ouattara, c'est qu'en 2020-2025, soit 50%, c'est-à-dire la moitié des échanges que nous devons faire donc, avec l'Afrique. Donc c'est élément fondamental. Et je crois que la zone de libre-échange que nous sommes en train de mettre en place doit permettre de développer ces échanges et faire en sorte effectivement que l'Afrique, qui actuellement dans les échanges internationaux représente que 3% des échanges, par les échanges intra-africains qui vont développer nos continents, passer pourquoi pas au moins au double, 6% voire 10% des échanges. Right. Et que les échanges intra-africains, au lieu d'être autour de 17% actuellement, on puisse avoir un objectif ambitieux d'atteindre au moins 30% d'ici 5-10 ans. C'est possible. C'est un problème de volonté, un problème donc de travail, et faire en sorte que toutes les barrières tarifaires et non tarifaires soient levées pour aller donc de l'avant. Voilà ce que je voulais vous dire en première instance.
Thank you. Jean-Philbert, let me come to you now. And the whole idea of Smart Africa, let's use what you're doing with Smart Africa to tell us how are you shaping and preparing the continent really to leverage the benefits of technology as we go into this continental free trade agreement, please.
Thank you, Julie. I've sat here this morning and listened through different talks, and I had 5 Ps, but 4 of them were very loud. There is a 5th one which I want to emphasize here. I've heard about people, that they are central to what CFTA is trying to achieve. I've heard about policies. I've heard about partnerships. I've heard about passion and perseverance. But very little was said about platforms. And I think the future of CFTA, it has to be a smart CFTA. And for CFTA to become smart at this time, there are 5 platforms that we need to invest into. First, is infrastructure. It's been said that we need to bring the satellites, the fiber optics, the 4G networks, the data centers together and interconnect them. What people don't know is that the cross-border flow of data has now surpassed in value the cross-border traffic of goods. This means that if you go on a road and cut the fiber, you create more damage than somebody who's actually blocked the road. But when a road is blocked, no one goes to sleep before, whether it is a landslide or something, no one goes to sleep before they clear the road. But when the fiber is cut, people will go to sleep, a week or 2, 3 will pass before it is fixed. The damage to economy is huge. Secondly, we need content platforms. Whether it's education or entertainment or information, Africa needs those content platforms to tell our own story. Otherwise, Al Jazeera and CNN will do it for us in their own way. Third, we need financial platforms, and this is a big one. And I think it's one that is still eluding people. What Ashish told us, mobile wallets, why don't we be bold and create a Pan-African digital currency? We are talking about a Pan-African market. You cannot do a market with a currency. Once again, we either do it and do it fast, or somebody else is going to do it for us. No one came for our opinion when Facebook and WhatsApp was created. Now, guess who knows when we wake up, what we tell to each other, what we buy, what we love, what we hate, and what we pay for. This information, which is the wealth, is kept outside. So we need to do that. Finally, we need identity platforms, which are secure, and we need trading and trade facilitation platforms. Once again, the window of opportunity is now. The rest of the world is watching. If we don't do it and take that opportunity, someone is going to come, and our young people won't ask for our permission, or the parents' permission, or the government permission to jump on those platforms. Thank you.
Very powerful, very powerful. And in fact, the rest of the world may not just be watching, they already are taking the space, and we have to be bold. Now, we've spoken about financial inclusion, so I'm going to come to you now, Kabiru, because you have a platform, and you are out there transforming lives. Through digital, you are able to ensure financial deepening is happening. Tell us about your experience, and I would also like you to speak to the different partners in the room. How can we escalate this to take advantage of this opening up of the African continent?
Thank you. Is it working? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was said here before. You know, Africa has always been, despite what the image that we are projecting to the rest of the world, Africa has always been ahead of things. If you take the African Union, the African Union has been started before the European Union, before ALENA, before a lot of continental organizations. But we don't take advantage of that. Africans are ahead of the future of jobs. When it comes to, I always talk about cycles, the fact that people in the rest of the world are looking for salary and working for a company, etc. And the future of job will be the fact that people will be working for themselves in the company. They'll be their own entrepreneur within the company, and at the end of the day, they'll be working for even different company. From 8 to 10, you'll be working for one company, for 10 to 12 for another company, etc. This is the future of the job in the world. And Africans are doing it now. Today, you have people have their own job, the entrepreneur all over Africa. This we call it the common minimum in Africa on jobs. Everybody has his own job. Even if you work for an administration, you have your own job aside. So
you're hustling.
You call it hustling, but
you've got your side thing, or yes.
Yeah, but you call it hustling, but we call it in economy we call it flexibility, and this is an asset, and we have to leverage on those assets. And but in order to do that, we need to make sure that we connect ourselves. We talk about Smart Africa. It's about connecting people. Financial inclusion doesn't mean wallet, doesn't mean mobile money, doesn't mean banking, offering a service that is offered elsewhere in Europe and you customize it and you make it African, like ethnic, and you think it's going to work. No, financial inclusion, I keep saying, is like is 5 pillars. The first pillars of financial inclusion is when I produce something, I should be able to sell it to somebody. That's the first financial inclusion. The second financial inclusion is when I sell it, I should be able to get this money back to me so I can use it. The third financial inclusion is like when I have the money, I should be able to consume. So I should have service to be offered to me, products I can buy and use. Then when I have consumed and I have spent my money, I have money left, I need to have somebody that can offer me a saving system where I can save the money. And the last but not the least, I want to make more money, I should be able to invest. So I should have like a service available for me to invest. This is financial inclusion. We are talking just some element. But in order to do that, we need to be, it would be financial inclusion, we need to control our economic information. Today, I don't know what's happening in Chad. I don't know what are the needs in Rwanda, what are the needs in Mozambique, in Central Africa, etc. We need to interconnect, and this is where the administration should take place. We don't need money to invest in it. We have the money, we can invest. I mean, finding the money is the last wheel of the car. We need to first have people to facilitate the politics, to help us as entrepreneurs to open the road, and we will invest in it. That's the thing we need to do. Once we control the financial information, then we have to have a centralized platform like he was mentioning. Today is not to create one currency, but the challenge we have, why we said only 10, 20, 15% of the trade is done between African countries, because we are 54 countries. I would say 55. Now don't forget, now we're 55 countries in Africa, not 54 anymore. And let's say we have 30 currencies. None of them is convertible with each other. Right. So it's impossible to trade. That's the bottom line of the whole thing. We're talking about having a treaty, having this and that, but we need to have the basic of trading. How do we exchange things? And we have to pledge our trade with the euro, with the dollar, etc. Right, so every country is struggling with this reserve of currencies, and it doesn't have enough to even trade with the neighbors. That's the main problem.
So we remain colonized by currency. The digital African currency is something maybe we should consider. Let me come to you now, Daktari, and I'd love your perspective on the scope we need to address when we're looking at this issue, because there's a multiplicity of things, from education and training, to the ability to pilot and scale up, to the partnerships we need to establish, multi-sectoral. So if you were to identify, from an UNCTAD point of view, a professional point of view, the key things we need to do, you know, this is a chessboard. What must we focus on right now to get it right? What's the mix?
Okay, from the outset, the biggest problem is political. Political leadership has to see the critical importance of getting into the digital market space. If it does not, it cannot address the how to get there. As we talk today, global e-commerce is growing at about 5% above global GDP. That's by far the brightest form of international trade today, rising in value from 2013 at $1.3 trillion to $2.5 trillion by the end of 2015. A number of things are important about this. If you have no electronic market visibility, you don't exist. Now, it comes to the opportunities that are unique to Africa. And that's where we have to start off with what do we need to do. First of all, I have listened to African presidents talk about this thing as if it's just back office operations, you know. They're stuck in the initial steps that they think call centers is digital inclusion. What we need to do today is an audit on where we are. My organization is doing rapid e-trade preparedness surveys of LDCs. We have finished all diseases in Asia. In Africa, we've just finished the study on in Liberia, and we have 12 others in the pipeline. What basically it means is you have to assess what is your domestic skill sets, your content development capacity, what is your physical and social infrastructure, what is your regulatory framework, privacy rules, for example, regulations on content development and abuse and fraud. You have to start questioning as a country in your practices. Have you developed an adequate payment system to underpin a digital economy? As a continent, we have a number of areas where we can leapfrog what we have been doing before. And sometimes we are fearing offering leadership. I saw two very good examples of leadership out of Africa. We have been talking about mobile money, but we don't talk about the reality that 2 years ago, Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda decided to unilaterally set a date to abolish roaming charges. 1.5 years later, the European Union followed. And
can we give those three countries a round of applause for setting the pace?
Now, the big challenge is this. Africa's most successful e-commerce experience is South Africa and Kenya, and that is 5% of their trade. On average in the European Union, 76% of all purchases are done electronically. Now, how do we fill that gap? Apart from the fiscal infrastructure, the rules and so on, we have to build a trust economy.
Right.
I mean, if you told me today that I'm buying something from Lagos and I swipe my card and press pay, and wait, how much guarantee do I have that after the money is received, the product will be delivered?
We've done it, actually. My team has done it, and it was delivered. So
nothing meant against Lagos. I could have said Nairobi or another. But the reality is that the trust economy requires a partnership between enterprise and governments in Africa. The African Continental Free Trade Area sets the infrastructure around which, a canvas around which so many things can be done now. We can talk about cross-border trust, about logistics of return goods, about collapsing a multiplicity of wallets. Today, the most popular wallet in Africa is what? PayPal. Why don't we create an African wallet that integrates African currencies. That's a step towards the digital currency talking about. Today we have the technology of blockchain technology, which allows for decentralized, unregulated, but credible transaction. There is no better description of what is to underlie the credibility of SMEs. Blockchain is the route to the future for African SMEs. But how are we building the ecosystem? Our best talents are stifled. We think that it's about back office operations. They go to other ecosystems and serve other people's enterprises. Action has to be today.
Thank you for that. And just to reiterate, that we have ordered across border, and it is happening, and it has been delivered, but we hear what you're saying. We need to build the capacity, we need to build the trust, we need to invest more, and I've heard a lot about discussions around blockchain and Africa and creating a currency, and that's exciting. I want to do things a little bit differently now, because I want to get to the floor as soon as possible. I want to ask each of our panelists to right now tell me where they see the greatest opportunity. What is that lowest hanging fruit? And who is the stakeholder you want to speak to with regard to that opportunity? I'll start with you, Kabiru.
We start with the central banks, because what we said is that we have started this platform, which is called Wari, to try to interconnect every single payment means in Africa, PayPal, M-Pesa, mobile wallet, bank account, etc., because it's needed. But today, the challenge we're facing is that the central bank should be part of it. That's why when we talk about the blockchain and everything, the central bank should issue the blockchains. This is where the whole system is going to come into place. And so today, if I need to talk to somebody, we will be able to, the politics should talk to the central bank and try to bring them in the table so we can discuss and see how we can leverage on the thing we have developed and build the trust amongst Africans.
Excellent. Central banks, we need you at the forefront of this. Your Excellency, your thoughts.
Bien, ce que je voulais dire, c'est que la mise en place d'abord de la capacité numérique, et je viendrai au problème de la monnaie tout à l'heure. Je vais donner l'exemple de la Côte d'Ivoire. Dans les années 90, aucun cellulaire n'existait en Côte d'Ivoire. Nous sommes 24 millions d'habitants. Nous avons actuellement 30,7 millions d'abonnés du cellulaire. Donc c'est plus de 100% de la population. Il y a quelques années, pas de fibre optique. Actuellement, nous avons déjà installé 2000 km de fibre optique en Côte d'Ivoire. À la fin de l'année 2019, nous allons avoir 7000 km de fibre optique, à la fois dans le pays, mais aussi aux frontières, de manière à pouvoir communiquer avec les autres à ce niveau. Transactions financières, nous avions 7 milliards de francs CFA d'opérations journalières. Actuellement, nous sommes entre 15 et 20 milliards de francs CFA de transactions journalières en matière d'échange par mobile banking. Je crois que c'est la meilleure façon d'aller vers une bancarisation plus rapide. Parce qu'on parle d'innovation, puisque le sujet c'est innovation, technologie et commerce intra-africain. C'est l'innovation qui permet d'aller plus vite. En tout cas, dans la zone que je connais, qui est la zone CEDEAO, ECOWAS en anglais, qui comprend 15 pays, y compris le Nigeria, nous allons vers une monnaie commune. Parce qu'effectivement, ça a été indiqué, sans monnaie commune, c'est difficile de faire des transactions. Bien qu'on puisse le faire, parce qu'on appelle, puisque je suis un ancien banquier central, la mise en place de chambres de compensation qui permettent effectivement de faire le clearing entre les banques centrales de chacun des pays. Le problème, c'est un problème de confiance, souvent, dans les monnaies africaines. Et pour ça, il me semble qu'il faut qu'il y ait une convergence des économies. Parce que sans convergence, c'est-à-dire sans effort d'amélioration du déficit budgétaire, de la dette, etc., il n'y a pas de monnaie africaine. C'est comme ça qu'on peut aller de l'avant. Je pense qu'ensemble, secteur public, secteur privé et société civile, on doit pouvoir penser l'avenir donc de l'Afrique ensemble. Et si on le fait, il n'y a pas de raison que l'Afrique ne change pas.
Thank you for that. So once again, trust. Jean-Philbert, for you.
Africa needs to go through a digital transformation, and very fast. There are 7 steps that we need to go through, and especially governments, what government needs to do. In my job, I advise 22 governments, which are member of Smart Africa, and there are 7 T's that everyone needs to go through, but I talk about just one. But the 7s are connect, educate people, demonstrate and promote, innovate, invest, but most important for me is regulate. And I think there has to be a mindset shift. Regulators need to use to regulate for certainty, to ensure a level playing field. Technology is moving so fast. You can't be certain about what tomorrow brings. So regulators need to start regulating for speed, for empowerment. They need to stop looking at themselves as, the referee, but more as a player. So if you ask me, the low-hanging fruit is not something that we need to do. It is something that we need to stop doing because it's just faster.
Wow, that's very interesting. Muhisa, your thoughts, the low-hanging fruit.
First of all, in a world where international trade is moving to electronic platforms, invisibility on electronic trading platforms means virtual absence in the marketplace. And therefore, anything and everything necessary to put African small business into electronic market visibility is critically important. But then you have to have an underpinning infrastructure that for every electronic promise we make, there's a physical facilities to deliver.
Right.
And that's the necessary regulation to punish those who impede the process. Just a last word on what Philbert just said. The biggest miracle about M-Pesa is not that it happened, but that the regulator, the Central Bank and the Communication Commission of Kenya, legalized what they did not understand.
Under some pressure, but
not much pressure. Yes. Not much pressure. In fact, even the banks in Kenya did not know what was going to hit them. If they did, they would have put a lot of pressure in the way. Because fintechs took away, telecos took away retail banking from banking institutions. Right. But the main thing is, at a time when technology is moving too fast for regulators even to understand it, regulators, as those who traditionally say, it only happens if we understand it, will impede progress. We have to create an ecosystem where the regulator and the innovator help each other to understand the risks, the frontiers, so that the regulator also understands facilitation as part of regulating, not controlling it. If I don't know it, it doesn't happen, which is the traditional mentality of a regulator.
Thank you. Yes.
This is what we see in the west side. There's 2 examples. We have on the east side, we have M-Pesa, and on the west side, we have Wari, which is a different thing, completely agnostic from telcos, bank, etc. But it's true that what has been said, that the Central Bank of Kenya has regulate on M-Pesa because they didn't know what it was, but they knew it was useful. And the west side, we're struggling because the regulator doesn't understand it. They want to bring us back to what they know.
And so there's a need for them to actually get in the game rather than resist what they don't understand. Can you allow me to say, ladies and gentlemen, right now, that giants are going to fall. In this environment, they will fall. Legacy means nothing if you are not revolutionizing, if you're not changing, if you're not adaptable and malleable. And that's a thought for you all to sit with, but I hear the voices, and we've kept coming back to the role of the regulator, the importance of the financial inclusion in all this, services. I'm going to come to the floor now for you to share some of your thoughts. I see hands going up very fast. We'll come to you, sir. I also do have Thomas Schaefer, MD, Volkswagen, South Africa. Where are you, Thomas? Okay, Thomas is here, and then we'll take the gentleman on this side and the gentleman on that side. Thank you. And I see you.
Good afternoon. Thomas Schäfer from Volkswagen Group South Africa, but I look after Africa for the group. My 3 pieces of wisdom with regards to the auto industry are, first of all, the auto industry is a major contributor to the economy and jobs and so on. And the auto industry globally is in the biggest development that it ever has been in. So now Africa can't lose the momentum in this. Now, my first theory is that we need to get a pan-African auto industry going, and that not to compete with each other, but to work with each other. Now, the big players in the industry, like, for example, South Africa, Nigeria, and whatever, yeah, work together, do something together, accept local content, vice versa, and whatever. Second one, try different things. Mobility, like we're spearheading now here as Volkswagen in Rwanda, make mobility available to people, but in a sustainable way, app-based and mobile and so on. Excellent. And the third one is, very quick, why go the traditional way? Leapfrog the development. Go straight to, from solar energy. You can, landlocked countries like Rwanda. Why do you import fossil fuel?
Leapfrog.
Yeah, there's synthetic fuels. So there's many options that can be explored.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that. We'll go to the gentleman on this end, on the second row with the glasses. Thank you. Thank you. I see you, sir. I hope I'll come back. Yes.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Ndalka Chosime. I'm from the Ethiopian Chamber of Commerce and the Sectoral Associations. I'm the Secretary General. My question is on the area of African manufacturing. I would like to hear from the panelists. I would like to thank all the panelists. It's very rich information. I would like to hear more on the African impact of this Smart Africa technology drive on African manufacturing, especially in connection with what we are facing, a very global force ahead of us, that is fourth industrial revolution.
Thank you.
Which is smarting every factories in Africa. Otherwise, if trade, in fact, trade facilitates movement of goods and services. If we don't have house-made goods and services, facilitating trade is a threat. That is facilitating a dumping site for other producing efficiencies. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. On this side, gentleman in the tan jacket. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone. I would like to offer you a set of solutions quickly.
Please introduce yourself.
This is Dr. Cham from Value Chain Development Switzerland, but Value Chain Development for Africa. We are thinking of all the missing links that are hindering the development of trade in Africa, but we are at the age where the technology gap can be closed with the numeric solutions. For instance, in terms of product and market development, Kabiru was talking about what do we know, what we should know in other countries and this and that. But you know one thing, you can fit a library of 3,000 books in one small ship. So why don't you build a proactive trade information system that's gonna help with the algorithm that are loaded in there to know what we can do with every single line of production, build a value chain out of it from bottom to end and load it there. And it can be accessed a click away. That would be the one pillar of what I call a minimum integrated trade expansion platform. The second one has been discussed this morning even with the Director General of the UNIDO. This is a quality standard metrology and testing infrastructure that is minimal and should be possessed by every country. Because even if you produce Rolls-Royce product, if you don't have an accredited body to certify the quality in terms of compliance, WTO rules will not allow you to ship your product. That is something we need to do, and we have the knowledge, we can do it quickly.
Thank you.
The third thing we have to do is value chain financing using digital platforms.
Thank you.
It's going to create the trust you were talking about, the visibility at all stages in the system, and this can be done also easily. Now to conclude, if you have these three pillars, I came all the way from Switzerland to try to offer this. Can you give me 1 minute just to finish it? Right? Because this is the problem we are having also with the bureaucrats. We have solutions when you try to instill the solutions in bureaucratic organizations, they don't absorb it, they don't deliver it, and they kill it. Right? So just allow me to make this breakthrough. So when you have these three pillars, you have a lot of information you can build specialized business development services on. And then when you have all these things, you can drive your infrastructure policy because you build infrastructure to follow opportunities.
Right.
So what I'm trying to say is that you need a business model to go through.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And I know a lot of people have traveled from very far to be here, most people in the room. The lady in red, and I'll come back to you, sir. Let's take a lady, right? Let's take a lady now. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Alena Simwe from Uganda with Avid Development. Very exciting discussion, but two things you talked about, leapfrogging. If we're talking about the technologies that we are going to import from elsewhere, we still have to change them after a short time because technology moves so fast. What are we doing about know-how? What are we doing about getting the AU to put aside 1 to 2% of the revenues for the next 5 years to R&D, to building a base of know-how so that we are building the technologies here? Secondly, if we're talking about 3G, 4G, look at artificial intelligence. Alibaba in one day in November sold over $20 billion through artificial intelligence and online platforms. How are we going to leapfrog? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Gentleman right here in the glasses. Thank you. And I'll take one last one. Young man right at the back. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur Meba, Chambre de commerce et d'industrie du Togo. Et je pense que je vais un peu suivre ce que la dame vient de dire. La maîtrise de la technologie passe par la formation. Et dans nos zones, dans nos pays, qu'est-ce que nous faisons pour cette maîtrise de cette technologie? Nous ne réagissons pas vite et nous ne prenons pas l'ampleur de la chose pour vraiment aider cette jeunesse à maîtriser cette technologie.
Right.
On parle de la numérisation à l'heure actuelle, mais ce monde numérique ne peut vraiment être maîtrisé que si nous commençons par la base. L'Inde l'a fait.
Right.
Former des milliers de jeunes et vous verrez que demain, le profit viendra vers nous. Sinon, aujourd'hui, le profit, c'est ceux qui ont la maîtrise de la technologie, l'Europe, les États-Unis et l'Asie. Donc, attention, allons-y vers là. C'est très important. Et aujourd'hui aussi, nous savons que d'autres voies d'infrastructures n'ont pas été implémentées, à savoir les voies routières, non, les voies ferroviaires et les voies maritimes. Que faisons-nous pour que cette zone de libre-échange soit effective? Il faut effectivement aller dans ce sens-là. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, sir. Last question, young man at the back. Sorry, just because of time. Yes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The name is Nana Yao from Ghana, organization Intra-Africa Connect. The purpose of our organization is to give the people of Africa a voice to talk to each other. We have been doing this since 2015. We took advantage of the agreements signed between Ghana and Kenya in 2014 to focus on those areas. What we've done in the past few years is host a Kenya Expo in Ghana and also host business safaris to Kenya. Why is this? Because I realized as an adult visiting Kenya, which I visited when I was a kid, the advantage of economics between us. Let's put it this way, quickly, let me go back to the 90s when I was in university.
Please don't go back to the 90s.
Quickly.
Okay, very
quickly.
Okay.
I would have finished by now. NAFTA was the big talk back then. That's the North American Free Trade Agreement. That's what we're trying to do now, okay? Wheels not broken, we don't have to fix it. Key things to NAFTA's success. Origin, rules of origin. That's one key thing, as soon as we can get that done. Look at this, the weakest country in NAFTA was Mexico. Between 1995 and 1998, between 1995 and 2000, they more than doubled their GDP. It went from 262 to 683. People, let's not worry and be afraid. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So I come back to the panel, and I want to start with R&D, research and development. Oh, Your Excellency, you can go first, yes.
Merci beaucoup. Il y a plusieurs questions qui ont été posées. Je vais réagir sur quelques-unes de ces questions. La première question, c'est la complémentarité plutôt que la concurrence. Je crois que c'est notre ami de l'Afrique du Sud qui a posé la question. Moi, je donne des exemples précis. Le Nigeria, la Côte d'Ivoire. Le Nigeria est devenu, depuis 2-3 ans, le premier fournisseur mondial de la Côte d'Ivoire. Premier pays fournisseur de la Côte d'Ivoire. Comment c'est arrivé? Tout simplement, le Nigeria a le pétrole. La Côte d'Ivoire a des raffineries. La Côte d'Ivoire produit du pétrole, mais du pétrole léger. Nous l'exportons. Nous achetons le pétrole lourd, le crude oil du Nigeria, le transformons, le vendons aux pays des alentours au nord et nous en vendons maintenant au Nigeria. Voilà le commerce, comment s'est développé entre le Nigeria et la Côte d'Ivoire. Et le Nigeria est devenu, donc, depuis ces 3 dernières années, le premier partenaire commercial de la Côte d'Ivoire avant les pays développés. Premier fournisseur. Voilà un exemple concret. Pour développer, toujours on parle du commerce intra-africain, les échanges. Un exemple avec les pays de l'Interland au nord, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger. Qu'est-ce que nous avons fait? Au-delà donc des infrastructures, nous avons fait en sorte que certains rentrent dans le capital du port d'Abidjan, qui est leur port d'évacuation des produits. Donc de ce fait, ils ont intérêt à ce que le port d'Abidjan se développe, puisqu'ils tendent dans le capital et faisant passer leurs produits, plus la transaction augmente, plus le chiffre d'affaires augmente, plus ils ont une part du bénéfice. Donc, it must be a win-win game in any case. The second aspect is the building of human capacity that has been mentioned. I think that's really important, of course. Right. I will switch to French.
You were doing very well, but French is beautiful too.
Okay,
yeah.
Maybe if I can help you, I'll go on in English. Human capital, as they mentioned, is really important for us. And I think the youth, the young people, the young girls and boys, are very smart as far as digital systems are concerned. We have in Côte d'Ivoire now what you call a digital university now. We have now 5,000 students attending this university.
Right.
When we began just 3 years ago, it was incredible to have this university. It's working so well that we do think that within 3 or 4 years, we can have maybe 15,000 people attending this university. Because it's really difficult, because we have 100,000 students having what we call baccalaureate degree at the end of the secondary. And we cannot build enough, high education classroom to have them participate into the studies. So with this digital university, we change things. We have not enough teachers all over the country because we have now 6 universities. But using e-teaching, e-learning, and MOOCs, we can change all these things. So I think that we have the solution in Africa. We have to work harder, of course, and I think what is really important to exchange experiences within African countries, and that can help to go further.
Thank you. I just want to stay with that, the whole research, education, skills building, and there are 2 things to this question. There's a specialist training that is required, but there's also just a look at our education systems. We need to start to ask ourselves, do we need to completely revamp education as we know it for our children and grandchildren to survive in the current environment and to thrive? And so maybe let me start with you, Daktari, on that. I'll come to Jean-Philbert and to you.
My first statement this afternoon was that the biggest hurdle we had is a political hurdle. And my answer starts with that statement again. The countries which are most falling behind in the digital inclusion debate are the countries which least appreciate the value of what they don't know. I mean, digital skills, digital literacy is just like other normal literacy. Those who are most illiterate are the ones who don't appreciate how unfortunate they are. But having said that, 80% of human knowledge, or all quantifiable human knowledge, is less than 4 years old. All human civilization up to 2015 accounts for 20% of human knowledge. 80% is since 2015. And what does that mean? That the rulers, the visionaries of the future are people who know how to quickly unlearn what they learned and embrace new learning. Wow. In that stake, the fact that we're ignorant is not a major liability. It's how much are we ready to start learning? There were two specific questions from the audience I want to talk to. Yes. One was the Ethiopian concern about the fourth industrial revolution and lost jobs. Actually, the scare is not necessary to worry about too much today. First of all, the kind of jobs that are being lost to robots are mainly in industrialized countries. Of the 1.6 million robots purchased globally in the year 2015, 43% were purchased in the US, Germany, and Japan. So for Africa, the reshoring of certain jobs does not yet threaten the possibilities of our technology, which comes with new opportunities and new production methods that can even make us more productive than before this phenomenon happened. But a related thing that I think is extremely important for us to embrace is this. Innovation is not a sector. One of the problems we have with ICT is that we make it the business of a ministry. Innovation, technological revolution occurring cuts across all sectors of society. So there has to be an all of society embrace of change. What we do is to isolate it and put it in a miserable ministry called Ministry of ICT, which has nothing to do with the post offices.
A miserable ministry.
Yes. I mean, the minister responsible for ICT cannot guarantee that the road will deliver goods that are purchased electronically, because it's beyond the mandate of his ministry. So an embrace of all of government, embrace of innovation, is critically important at the core of making the opportunities of the electronic marketplace work for Africa.
Can I,
just a last example of what I've done.
Yes.
You know that last year I started off together with Jack Ma in sending 25 young African netpreneurs to the Alibaba campus in Guangzhou.
Absolutely.
I was very impressed because we've just finished a set of young entrepreneurs from Asia. And the entire community of Alibaba says by far, by a mile, the set we took from Africa represents much more the future than the set they received from Asia.
That's incredible. We were just here a few months ago when that was announced.
Yeah, in July we're sending the next batch.
Fantastic. That's excellent. Let me come to you. I will come back to you, Jean-Philbert, because there was also a question on manufacturing. I want to deal with skills building and manufacturing with you. So let me come to Kabiru first. This whole question of the kind of training and skills that you want to see from your perspective, what do we need to do to ensure we're putting money into R&D, ensure our education systems work, and to really narrow that gap? People graduate or leave school and they simply don't have the skills needed on the marketplace. How do we address that?
The first thing, one thing we have to understand is like we have to shift from what we know to what we should do. I mean, today, if you take the countries in Africa, let's say 90% of the countries in Africa, they get their revenue through customs. Today, you talk about education, you talk about the penetration of a smartphone, 4% only, smartphone in a country, in a continent. Why? Because every time you bring a smartphone to a country, you're going to pay the same price for the custom. So that's the first thing you need to change. The administration should change that to allow the technology, the equipment to flow into the countries. Then the training will come from internet, from anything, but it will be available for everybody. The second thing is like we need to understand that the telcos will not develop the future of the economy. And today, that's the biggest mistake we're making. I just give an example. M-Pesa on the east side is a success. That's the only success in the thing, and it was not done by Safaricom. M-Pesa was started by defeat that brought this project to Safaricom to promote financial inclusion, and it became a success. It became a success, why? Because Kenyans are digitalized. The whole Kenya is digitalized. The taxi is connected, the mom and pop shop is connected, the bank is connected, the administration is connected to one centralized thing. It doesn't have anything to do with the telco. If you bring a telco in the middle of a system, it creates a monopoly and it will kill initiative. And this is a mistake we're making everywhere. We talk about mobile money as a panacea, we say in French. This is not, the mobile should stay mobile, like they do in Nigeria. It's not allowed for mobile operator to offer financial services because you kill initiative. Every time you want to start something to promote a new project, the operator will take it or will block it because it goes against his interest. So we have to think about those things. Two things: the government should stop taking this revenue from the customs and trying to get the revenue from the tax from the general public. Second, we should change the actors who are going to promote the new era of a digital economy.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Maybe I need to point out that different African countries are at very different places at this time. So what you've tapped into there on monopolistic tendencies is a very interesting discussion that I'm sure could be taken further. But let me come to you, Jean-Philbert, now. You had a specific question on impact of Smart Africa on African manufacturing. But before you go into that, please speak to skills building and research and development, investments into that.
Absolutely. So there are three levels we are trying to tackle: the necessity to move fast, to leapfrog, and to tackle the challenges that governments and private sector are going through into this digital transformation, including the manufacturing sector. The first level is education, and I can't overemphasize that. Smart Africa started a scholarship fund that sends kids to the most advanced technology engineering schools. But it's not enough. We also encourage our member countries to invest more into education. But the most important, as it was said by Dr. Kitui, is the biggest challenge is political. Now, Smart Africa is this platform that brings together the public and the private sector. It is the only organization that I know where the board of directors is composed by heads of state. Côte d'Ivoire is a member of Smart Africa. It shows that the political will to move is there. The heads of state have the vision. They want us to move fast, and we find that Smart Africa is that platform that will bring the private sector together to address those challenges. The regulatory challenge that I talked about, we've just launched a council of African regulators, and what we are telling them, what they're discussing, we are going to have our 4th meeting, is to unlearn. We are not teaching them anything, but we are just having conversation on what needs to be unlearned first, and then we can find room to learn new things. The last level that I think is very important is data. We produce a lot of data already. We are going to produce more data in the future, but who's capturing that data? Where is the data? So we are pushing a lot of investment into data infrastructure, fiber, and data centers, but I think we need to begin to understand that data, I mean, many people here understand that it is the new oil or new gold, but there is a notion of sovereign data that has not yet surfaced. We need to understand that if somebody knows more about your wife than you do, if your neighbor knows more about your kids than you do, or your husband, you really need to be worried. And that is what is happening. That's why we need to really step up our efforts to produce, protect, and mine our own data and understand what it is that the future is bringing us.
That's incredible. Thank you very much. That would be very worrying. I agree. I just want to reiterate, we've really talked about training, skills building. We've talked about many different things. I want to thank the gentleman who had shared many ideas, the gentleman from Switzerland. I hope he can plug into you. He had a lot of ideas. I've been given a few more minutes, and so there was a gentleman with his hand up there on the side. Can we get a mic to him? Do I see other hands? Is there not another lady in the room? I see a gentleman there. Is there no other lady with a question? Okay, so we'll take the two gentlemen. Go ahead, sir.
There is a lady here.
Where?
Just there.
Fantastic.
David Martin with MCAM. In 1982, Africa created one of the largest economic development engines for industrial West by having the outbreak of HIV. If you look at the total economic impact of that, it was multi-billions of dollars, and the biggest beneficiary was India and its pharmaceutical business, not Africa. Many people died here, but those lives were lost in vain, and the economic benefit went elsewhere. In Africa, since then, only 0.5% of the worldwide R&D and innovation has ever sought patent protection within Africa, which means 99.5% of the proprietary rights of the world are open source and free to use in this entire region. And if we're serious about free trade, we should not spend on R&D. We should take the $2 trillion that is currently open source innovation, publicly available across this entire continent, and we can leapfrog across every industry the state of the art. So rather than talking about incremental changes and becoming app developers on other people's platforms, we should be taking the fact that we have the largest open source innovation on this continent and not a single policy yet to use it. That's $2 trillion that is available today, and I am here to actually give it to any state that wants it.
Thank you for that. Let me come to the lady here, and then we'll have the gentleman at the back. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just pick up on the last speaker with reference to industrialization and linking our science and technology scientific institutes and universities. In all our African continent, we have our scientific research centers, universities. We have a lot as professors that after we make our research, it's put into the drawer but never commercialized. Now, if we are really looking forward for development in Africa and industrialization, we need to see how we gear our research within our scientific research center towards addressing our problems and towards our intra-African trade. If we're talking about pharmaceuticals, then in Egypt there is 165 pharmaceutical industries, and yet we are still importing from China and India a lot of our pharmaceuticals.
Wow.
In a lot of our African continent, we need to build on our centers of excellence. For instance, in Ethiopia, there is the Leather Institute. How can we have this Leather Institute have our African brand? Because in Namibia, a lot of leather there, but under foreign branding. So in order to have intra-African trade, we need an African product that our scientists would gear with the innovation and build the centers of excellence within our continent. Because I'm sorry, I disagree with little thing with transfer of technology. Nobody will transfer all the technology to us. We have to create our own technology because we have all the scientists of the world in Africa. All our scholars all over the world are the ones who are inventing, but yet we are not benefiting from our scholars of Africa. So it's time that Africa have its own technology and have its own industrialization. Thank you.
Interesting perspective there. Let's take the gentleman at the back. Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. So my name is Kelvin. I am the country manager for Unilever in Rwanda, but I'm Kenyan. I have a bit of a stupid question. The first one
There are no stupid questions.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
So the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement must be a document that's available. And I'm asking on behalf of all the young people out there, what are we doing to make sure that that document is available and everybody has access to the information as a starting point?
Thank you.
My second question is more to regulation. And I ask this because the business that we do is we import product from Kenya every single time, the product that we're selling here. And from a value chain point of view, one of the challenges that we've been facing is when you have 3 different revenue authorities that you have to deal with, that in itself becomes an issue. Because you have all these regulatory taxes that have been put on the importation of product. Is that going to be addressed anywhere in the Free Trade Area Agreement?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. Final one, gentleman there.
Thank you very much. I am Octavian, representing Chamber of Commerce in Tanzania. Well, having listened to panelists, I see that Africa is the future of the world. Because when the Industrial Revolution and the technological development happened in Europe, it moved all the factories into Asia. And now we see that we are having sunset industries which are trying to move their factories out of Asia, and they're looking to invest into Africa. And we can see examples like Ethiopia, maybe the other countries like Kenya, Tanzania, and Rwanda, all have opportunity to benefit from these industries which are running out from the technology like robots. One challenge which I want to pose to this house is we have to make sure we increase our research abilities, our research and the development budget. Because I wonder if in our national budget we have enough research and budget, and even in private sector, do we have enough research and development budget in our companies? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. So coming back to the panel, once again, R&D comes up. And can I just say that absolutely excellent point that in our institutions of higher learning, our universities, anybody who's doing research and development should ensure that they're addressing the problems that we have on the African continent, so we're able to connect their work directly with our challenges. That would be a great start. But let me come back, and Dr. let me start with you on your end. There's this question of developing authentic, okay, maybe that's not the word, kienyeji, homemade, homegrown innovation, homegrown solutions. The question of open source platforms, yes, they are available. Can we leverage those, or should we be encouraging more of our own development? What are your thoughts on that?
I will actually sidestep that debate.
Okay.
I think that debate is sterile.
Let me stop you there because
just a minute.
Yes. Since you're sidestepping,
the essence of the knowledge economy
yes.
is to appreciate the value of innovations. Now, whether we go open source or optimize the resources from our intellectual resources becomes a secondary matter. Okay. To me, it is, can we run with the product of this intellectual innovation and turn it into production? Why do we continue being a market for generics when the capacity to make generics in Africa exists?
Okay,
so it doesn't answer to whether that knowledge came from Brazil or from South Africa. It's just, why aren't we using it? That should be the debate.
Your Excellency, let me come to you.
Je pense que c'est une bonne discussion. Le problème, c'est d'avoir des gens formés qui puissent s'adresser aux problèmes qui s'opposent à chacun de nos pays et à l'Afrique. L'essentiel, c'est la formation. Mais cette formation, on ne peut la faire que si nous avons les écoles, les universités pour ça. Si vous les avez, après tout, quand on parle des génériques qui viennent de l'Inde ne fabriquait pas les génériques avant. C'est parce qu'ils ont formé les gens, ils ont trouvé les solutions. Moi, un des problèmes que je pose, je reviendrai un peu aux autres éléments, l'Afrique a une maladie qui s'appelle le paludisme, qui tue beaucoup de gens actuellement. Mais si on n'avait pas trouvé en son temps les remèdes au paludisme, il n'y aurait pas d'Africains. Ça veut dire quoi? Ça veut dire qu'au cours du temps, on a perdu les principes actifs des plantes qui permettaient de soigner le paludisme. Ce que nous demandons, nous, c'est que nous formons donc les scientifiques pour retrouver au niveau des plantes ce que nos parents trouvaient de manière à pouvoir soigner les gens. Je pense que c'est la capacité de l'homme à apprendre et à s'adapter, comme je dis au départ, aux circonstances qui permettent d'aller de l'avant. Nous avons en Côte d'Ivoire, je prends le cas, mis en place ce qu'on appelle les ATIC, qui est l'École supérieure de formation en matière de TIC. Vous avez des jeunes gens qui sont pris sur 3 à 4 ans et qui sortent avec des formations de haut niveau et qui permettent actuellement d'inonder le pays et d'exporter même à l'extérieur. 2 exemples précis que je donne. Un,
very quickly, please.
Yeah,
Sir.
please.
Thank you.
Well, I would like just to speak in English. I think that would be easier. They have invented, for instance, a software for higher education, for instance. The second one, I don't know what you say in English, les cartables. That's school bag, solar school bag, for instance.
Right, backpack, solar.
So that
yes.
if you are in different villages without grid, electricity grid, for instance, you can study for that. Right. So if you have a problem, if you have the people that can think and find the solution, that's what we have to do. But as far as research is concerned, I think that we have to dedicate, maybe in the coming future, we are trying to do it in Côte d'Ivoire, 1% of the budget. We are on the way, that will not be done, to research, R&D. And finally, the idea would be that that will be 1% of GDP. Not budget, but GDP to research. If you do that, and for all African countries, and if you can interact and exchange things, I think we can change a lot of things. Finally, I will say that will be my conclusion, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
L'Afrique a raté les 3 révolutions industrielles. On est dans la 4e révolution industrielle. OK. Nous avons raté les 3 révolutions industrielles. Nous sommes à la 4e révolution industrielle, qui est celle de la matière grise. Il me semble que l'Afrique ne peut pas rater cette révolution. Et les résultats que nous avons, que ce soit donc au Kenya, que ce soit donc au Sénégal, en Côte d'Ivoire, etc., montrent que la jeune génération est de plein pied dans ce 21e siècle, qui sera numérique ou elle ne sera pas. Merci. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very, very much. We're not missing this revolution. In 1 minute, literally, my apologies, Jean Philbert and Kabiru. Just take us through your final statements, your final thoughts on this. Opportunities, innovation, what would you end with? And inspire us as you finish.
Well, I believe that many people this morning said this is the best thing that has happened to Africa over the last 30, 40 years, and I agree. I was in Dakar last week. There was an innovation. There was the Forum du Numérique, this is Senegal Digital Days, and one of the apps that won a prize is called Wakantech. So it's Wakanda and technology. Now you know that what Wakanda represents in the minds of young people, this new Africa that is confident, that is technologically advanced. And on behalf of all the young people of Africa, because I think I represent them on this panel, I want to thank the leaders for creating this platform to make the dreams of our young people come in 3D. Finally, I've been taught not to leave the stage without selling something. I want to invite the business leaders that are in this room. I've seen the banks, I've seen the telcos, I've seen the pharmaceuticals, construction. Please come and join Smart Africa. Become our members and join us in May from the 7th to 9th for the next Transform Africa Summit. Thank you.
Thank you. You should have finished with Wakanda forever. Okay.
That's a good line, but I think for me, what we need to do in order to create this one unique market that we're looking for into this whole initiative is we need to standardize our system. We need to build trust amongst each other, and we need to believe in ourselves. and to promote our own initiative. Today, I said, if you want to transfer money from your account from Senegal to Mali, which is 200 kilometers away, you have to use SWIFT. Why?
All right.
Today we have initiative in, you have Visa, you have MasterCard. Here we are building our own system. We have to connect all our switches together, etc. But this cannot be done by politics, cannot be done by banks, cannot be done by telco, it has to be done by a neutral, agnostic players. And this has to be promoted by the politics.
Thank you very much for that. Daktari, do you have a final word?
My final word is to thank the audience for staying with us through this discussion, but to say importantly, the ecosystem for Africa's transformation requires more and more believers to talk to authority, that priorities are not just retooling the old economy, but to prepare for closing the digital gap.
Thank you very much. As I finish, thank you very much for your attention. It is going to be hard work. This past week in Kenya, we've been talking about universal health care and how we equip community health workers with the tools they need to do the job. And part of that is a backpack with solar, with technology, where you're able to plug into different things to help people on the ground in communities with primary basic health care. And so there are so many different levels for this, and we can transform Africa, but once again, it will take hard work. But if we don't do it, who will? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Julie, for an excellent panel. It's very difficult to have the panel that comes after lunch because the energy level dips, but you kept the energy level high. Well done, Julie. Okay, moving swiftly on because I understand that His Excellency, the President of South Africa, is on his way, making his way right now. So without much ado, before we actually see him here up on stage, we have a very important launch to take care of. One of the ways that the African Continental Free Trade Area will be a success is if we meet face to face. This platform that we're in today and the signing tomorrow is a significant milestone. But there is also another milestone, which is the Intra-African Trade Fair, which will take place in Cairo, in Egypt, on the 11th to the 17th of December, 2018. And the Intra-African Trade Fair is an opportunity for all stakeholders, 1,000 exhibitors, 70,000 people expected to come together in order to talk trade. I won't say much more, just cast your eyes on the screen, roll the film.
The inaugural Intra-African Trade Fair, IATF 2018, brought to you by the African Export-Import Bank, Afreximbank, in collaboration with African Union, and hosted by the Arab Republic of Egypt, invites you to the first ever gathering of buyers and sellers, promoting matchmaking, business-to-business transactions on the African continent. The IATF, which is the first of its kind, will be taking place in Cairo from the 11th to the 17th of December 2018. Various financial institutions offering trade finance valued at over $25 billion will be in attendance. Over 4,500 buyers and sellers will be attending from all African countries and various non-African countries. African heads of state, trade and industry ministers, finance ministers, and private sector will be participating in the trade fair. Over 1,000 exhibitors and 70,000 visitors are expected to attend. The IATF provides a platform for entry into a single market of over 1 billion people, joined together by the African Continental Free Trade Area. It also offers opportunities for investors from all over the world to explore trade and investment opportunities in Africa. There will also be opportunities for training traders on how to export within the continent and training arrangements.